Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. So today we're having a great roundtable conversation, which is different for this show, but it's something that I wanted to have to talk about. What's different about Philadelphia? Why isn't Philadelphia is the fifth largest city in the United States of America. I was born in the third, which is Chicago, and I grew up in the fourth, which is Houston. So I've been in the top 5 3 times. And I will never go to the first, New York. Ugh, LA, too hot. But I'm interested because now I'm in the bottom tier, no pun intended, 5 being Philadelphia, and trying to figure out, what is causing, so many people to why is it, Philly has so much great stuff. They have great food, they have good restaurants, but I'm trying to figure out what is it about Philadelphia that people do? Why hasn't Philly gotten its act together? And I mean, that's a subjective question. I mean, you can talk about social life and, dating and restaurants and politics and education and poverty and all these issues that Philadelphia has. I'm trying to figure out why hasn't Philly got its act together. We got the DNC coming up. We have a new mayor. Our U.S. congressperson, as you know, is indicted. And we have a lot of other things that's happening in our, community, in our city that's just a little crazy. We've lost our state reps to corruption that's happened, stepped down. It's a lot of stuff going on in Philadelphia. So I've brought, an esteemed group of guests from Philadelphia from different parts of the neighborhood to talk about some of these issues that impact them. So, let's get this conversation started. So really, what's in your opinion, one of the biggest issues that Philadelphia needs to, address or to do to get its act together? Go ahead. What's your name?
My name's Dave Lipscomb, and I'm a lifelong Philadelphian. But I think the issue comes in is that we're dealing with education in Philadelphia. And I think, unfortunately, the education system in Philadelphia really has not really lived up to what it could be. And with that happening, is allowed the city to slide in, future generations to slide into an area where they're unable to sustain a big city like Philadelphia. So that's one of the reasons, in my opinion.
Hi, my name is Barry. I'm originally from Trenton, New Jersey. So when I go to Penn, when I first came here, it's so much to do here, so many opportunities. And I think it's really sad that the people who live here or from here, they just can't take advantage of those opportunities. And most people don't really know that they are available. And I think something that contributes to that a lot is that in the city there's this idea that people just don't want outsiders to come in and to help out, and the fear that outsiders are going to take over. You're from here, you're from Philly, and that you understand the issues that are going on, but if you have the same people making the same mistakes and doing the same thing that doesn't work, then how do we possibly think that we can fix these issues in terms of education and policy? And I think that if Philly really wants to be a first-class city, you can't be insular, and you can't be afraid of change. So basically, that's what I think the problem is.
Right.
Hi, my name is Abel McDaniels. I'm also from New Jersey, and I go to school here in the city. And actually, I think I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm a lot more optimistic about Philadelphia. I think.
Are you from Philadelphia?
I'm not from Philadelphia.
Okay,
but
makes sense.
Just over the time that I've been here, I've noticed there's a big change in how people in Lawrence and where I'm from in New Jersey think about it. So, for example, 8 years ago, we wouldn't drive into the city for a day because what was there to do? People were worried about their cars being broken into or tires, whatever. But just last year, when we were moving back into school, and we were driving around the Fairmount area, my family was shocked because they were saying 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't really drive through here and see what you do now during the day. So, thriving center city, thriving eds and meds economy, restaurants. I know in the late 90s, there was worry that the city was about to be bankrupt. It was major fiscal problems, but now we've really gotten through all of that. But I guess like some other people said earlier, to me the biggest problem is the huge discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots, which is usually broken down by neighborhoods and race. And again, I think that comes down to education. Philadelphia's to say it's bad is an understatement. It's a failure. There really is no education system. There's no reliable funding stream. There's no leadership. You have responsibility spread across the city and the state, and no one's going to take responsibility to get things on track. So I think the education system is actually going to halt the progress the city's been making.
Right. Well, I'll just add, pass it around. But I just think that one of my, thoughts on it personally is that, with all these great big restaurants and this great center city and all this stuff that people were celebrating, that came with a price, right? It was gentrification. That was the price. The lack of investment and energy being done to make the city better, to enhance the city, to make it better, to support the education system. All that money went to $19 million lights on Arch, okay? That money went to a new love statue redo over there by that fountain over there around 15th Street, that new love statue, right? And, Dilworth Park, right, that is right over there where that was a big, huge, like 500 student brawl that took place, not too long ago. So there's a lot of, crazy issues that have taken place, but the shift has not been on education in the budget at all. I mean, they keep saying they want to do a pre-K. I know the new mayor, Kenny, wants to do the pre-K school program. But in reality, that still doesn't address the high school kids. It's like everyone wants to pull back and kind of giving up on this middle school kids. It's like, let's start with the babies. But it's like, this is going to be, these middle school kids and high school kids are going to be the new wave for a couple decades. So you won't even see the results of pre-K kids excelling until another 20 years almost. So it's and even economically, you won't see that change until another 30 years. So in reality, to me, I think that what has come is much expected. So you have all these great cities and buildings, but you don't see the progress. So is anyone in here want to talk about, maybe some of the consequences of this progress? I mean, visual progress, cosmetic progress. Right here, Miss. What's your name?
My name is Bobby Booker, and my job is actually documenting a lot of what is happening here in Philadelphia, a place that I hashtag call My Pretty City. And I name it that because that's how I feel about it. I was born and raised here in this city, and I've escaped a few times. And one of the reasons I escaped was because of my disenchantment with what Philadelphia was. My escape from Philadelphia came when it was the 4th largest media market.
Wow.
But we were in the midst of some very significant social problems, including race riots. We're not even going to talk about sexual dynamics because people could only live in certain parts of the city. You couldn't be in an interracial relationship unless you decided to reside in certain parts of the city. However, this city, its leadership, and more importantly, its residents have chosen to make a forward motion in helping to change what visually Philadelphia is. That is why, there was an effort that started in the late 90s to create a world-class city. It became almost a mantra for our second black mayor here, John Street.
Yeah. And
then it became a reality for our last outgoing African-American mayor, Michael Nutter. But it still comes back to something that was pointed out by one of your fellow esteemed guests here, is there's a certain comfort zone, a certain disdain towards outsiders, towards change, one that is reflected in the lack of education, the lack of support for higher education, and I say that to mean even completing high school. So many, we have a disproportionate number of high school dropouts who become parents and then are grandparents and then are great-great-grandparents to additional high school dropouts.
Yeah.
And there has to be a sea change within the base. This can't come from the top. This has to come from the bottom up, where we embrace a new dynamic of defining ourselves as Philadelphians, and especially as educated, world-class citizens. A wake-up call came here just a few months ago when the Pope came to town. And I can't tell you how many native Philadelphians I saw that were shocked to see the world at our doorstep. Now it's time to up our game.
I agree. I think that it's interesting because there is this level of world-class prestige, and we have the Pope, and we have the DNC. We had the Forbes 30 under 30 event. Now it's in Boston. Thanks, Kenny. But some people didn't care. I cared. I'm under 30. But there were people who, were really upset about that leaving. But I mean, there's new things coming. There was NAACP National Convention last year. We just have a lot of conventions and things here. But I think that one of the things that, still baffles me is that, we can afford to put on the lights and the glitz and the glamour for, the world, but we can't put on the lights and the food for those on the streets, and how poverty is really crazy here. And it's just ridiculous to me how crazy poverty is. And it's not simply just, people living on the street asking for money. I'm talking about people that go to school. I run an after-school program in West Philadelphia High School. I see students wear the same uniforms almost every single day, the same exact shirts. And the fact that there's, free reduced lunch programs and these things, but there's kids who stay in my programs after school because that's their way to eat. And I didn't know those things. I didn't recognize them until the patterns, because so many people know. We have a huge LGBT youth homelessness issue. We have a huge youth homelessness issue. We have a huge homeless issue, period. And it's all, kind of canvassed in this issue. So how do we maintain this world-class status to the rest of America and the world, and have these big Wawa Day festivals and parades and 4th of July things, but then at the end of the day, there's a bunch of people that's on the outskirts that are homeless begging for money? Anyone have any thoughts on that? On that poverty? Yeah.
My name is Dave Anderson. I'm from Philadelphia. I went to arguably one of the worst high schools here. I went to Martin Luther King High School.
Oh.
Graduated almost at the top of my class. I went to Temple University. So I'm from here. I've been out in all throughout the world, and I've seen certain things. But I will say this: when it comes down to the homeless problem, even locally, regionally, or nationally, no one will address it because homeless people don't vote. So until such time as, people look at them as viable constituents, the thing will keep happening. And not to mention, there's a whole lot of that machine that still takes place when it comes to the homeless problem. A lot of people are talking about how education is an issue. I went to a slum of a school, and that's way before they closed down Germantown High School, which is sitting there dilapidated for some God unknown reason. But we have to get to a point where we start looking at resources, and as a parent, I make sure that my children are involved in things. We have to be responsible. We got into this mentality, I don't know if it started in the beginning of the Clinton administration or at the end of the Reagan years, where it was though we just let everybody else take accountability for what our children are doing or not doing, and then they become the state's problem, then they become my problem as a taxpayer.
Right.
We have to be more proactive. We have to actually go to city council meetings when we can sit down. We actually have to hold our city councilmen and women responsible. We have to be active in our community. We're the block captains. At what point do we start moving forward ourselves instead of waiting for some hero to fall out of the sky? I love this city. I want the city to succeed, and I don't want people who want to come in here and learn and take advantage of things to feel like, there's this wall. There shouldn't be. We need all the help we can get.
Right. So I wanted to add something. I know someone in our audience has been involved with after-school programs with kids. I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you know about dealing with just the programming, the rates. What's the barriers between kids getting involved after school? Why do some join? Why did some join? Why some don't? What are some of the issues you've seen, when it comes to education in Philadelphia?
Okay, I'm Amanda Parks. So I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I graduated 3 years ago, and I currently work at the Children's Hospital. So I'm in the schools. I do violence and bullying prevention programs in 3rd to 5th grade. I've been in 6 different Southwest schools. So your question about after-school programming, I think at least the one that I was affiliated with, Penn, there was I think there was a cap with how many kids could even. I mean, we had 100 kids, I think, but I think that there was definitely a nutrition problem with the older children. We had our kindergarten, our 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Those are pretty well numbered, but then when we got to the 6th, 7th, and 8th, there weren't as many kids that would come to the after school program. They would leave early or they wouldn't, be involved. My issue though with Philadelphia is since I've been here for now 7 years, and I don't know if I wanted to become more gentrified. It's like why is gentrification? I know we keep talking about the glitz and the glamour,
right?
But to me, like when working in these schools and communities every day, they're not improving. Like it's great to see that we have these great food, like these restaurants, and like we're up and coming, and that's awesome. But like, who is it really? It's not benefiting the black people in the city. It's not benefiting the low income people. So I don't know if I really care that much about how great it looks if the people that I'm working with, like children I'm working with every day, aren't really benefiting from it. And so I think I haven't really seen much progress since I started working in 2009 to now in the schools at all. I haven't seen any progress in the communities that I've really been in. So I don't, what's the price? It's like, the neighborhood I live in currently is new buildings everywhere. There was just a public housing thing that was demolished, and within a week, I walked past it every single day to go to work, and now it's gone. And to me, I'm always wondering what was the plan for these people? So I just think the glitz and glamour is great, but what is the price? I'm from the Washington D.C. area, and D.C. has become a great place to visit and have fun as an educated person who can afford to live there. But then if you can't, it's the same problem. You just keep pushing out poor black people, and I don't really think our community is thriving if the city does. I don't see where the connection is, I guess.
Right. So I want to add to that is that, when we talk about gentrification, these issues, we have local elected officials in this city. All of them, for the most part, are black. In the local level, city council, the big city reps, most of them are black. And a lot of them pride themselves from being for the people, by the people. Some of them have made campaign remarks that, say they're, from, different parts. You're looking at parts of South Philadelphia, that Point Breeze, areas in West Philly, where there are people who, are from those areas, and they campaign on bringing jobs and fixing the systems and fighting for the kids and doing all this stuff. So it's complex to me, and I want someone to speak to this, is that having black elected officials, does it make a difference, and why does it not? Sure, go ahead.
Again, my name is Dave Lipscomb, and I really don't think at this point, looking at the track record of our political leaders who happen to be black, that really it's made a difference. When they first started to get elected, I think that black officials did make a difference, and somehow they got co-opted. And with that co-opted, our schools went down. There was no funding because basically Philadelphia is a black city, or predominantly black. Right. And all the services that would affect the black community have gone down. Now, when you say that, I have to look at the constituents. When we look at the last election, only 27% of the people decided that they were going to participate in an election. So a quarter of your people in the city control the whole city. Yeah. So we have to look at it that way. So when you look at our black elected officials, they say, why should I care? You don't vote for me. And as another esteemed co-host here said, if you don't vote, you don't count. So it reminds me of you become invisible. And that is one of the reasons why. So having a black elected official really doesn't make a difference to me anymore. Okay. I need someone who's effective. Because I look at a black effective, and one of my things, my pet peeves in the city now is that we're looking at we have a new mayor. Yeah. He campaigned on stop and frisk.
Yep, he said it would end it, actually, quote.
Right now he's backtracked on that. Right. And I understand a little why he did, because there is a law back from 19-something, I forgot what it was. But also we look at, right now, when we look at that, we're saying, why can't we somehow look at that law and see how we can change it? And then also we're just talking about just a lot of different things. Like right now we're dealing with the police contract is coming up in January. Mm-hmm. We need to have the directives that actually the former Commissioner Ramsey had made suggestions. We as the citizens need to say, hey, we want those directives in the police contract, because we want to have good cops, because we don't want to have bad cops. We want to be able to fire the bad cops and keep the good cops. So that's my thing when you say black politicians. I don't think it makes a difference anywhere, really.
It doesn't?
In my opinion.
Anybody want to piggyback on that? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that. I mean, it's go Go ahead.
First, I also wanted to clarify what I said earlier. I definitely think it is an issue that you've only had development in like Center City, University City, at the expense of the neighborhoods. But to that point, though, Philadelphia was, for most of its existence, an industrial town. That was mass employment. At its height, like at least 75% of the population was involved in the manufacturing economy, and that's what lets you keep a city needs a tax base. So I was saying, to an extent, you needed development to get the city out of where it was in the 90s, because you can't pay for schools, streets, fire department, police departments if you don't have a system of tax revenue. Like look at Detroit, Flint, smaller industrial cities like Camden or Trenton. But yeah, I definitely think it's true that our black elected officials have become wrapped up in the ideology that I would also say started with Reagan, then Clinton doubled down on, where we stop sort of investing in communities that need the most in the name of progress for everyone, with the promise that eventually that'll trickle down, but it never has. So now in Philadelphia, the incumbency rates are crazy. Like you have people who've been in these seats for decades.
You look at Janie Blackwell, who
Yeah.
runs West Philadelphia. She's, she picked the baton from her husband, and it's become a dynasty almost. I mean, almost like our politics, our national politics almost. But there's like a dynasty with the politicians. And I think it's very true. The voting record, is a problem.
Voting turnout is like abysmal, but at the same time, I almost kind of understand that, because if you've been living your whole life and have seen nothing change, what reason would you have to expect you voting to make a difference?
Correct. So what do you think as far as solutions go? I mean, what are some things, what are some immediate steps, in your opinion, do you think that we can do individually or recommend that you think can help, adjust or change Philadelphia briefly? Anyone, you?
Yeah, my radical solution is stop eating cheesesteaks.
Wow.
And I'm not just saying that as some outrageous thing. There has to be something that we have to examine about the comfort level of Philadelphia, just like those people who are in office. Now, we'll give Councilwoman Blackwell props, because she has advocated so fully for the community that she serves. But there are those folk who are just riding coattails. And I say cheesesteaks because we collectively in Philadelphia, that's what we're known for. We're just a cheesesteak town. And you all know that if you eat cheesesteaks, even if you just eat them once a week, after a while that stuff starts to add up and it collects and it makes you into nothing but a fat, lazy bump on a log. We're not pointing fingers.
No.
Somebody just patted their belly. But we do, and a part of it is coming along with the food culture in a way that we're thinking, but we have to think outside the box. That comfort also is evident in our media, where you can turn on practically every radio station in this market and hear the same exact people on the air that were there 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years
Sorry,
ago,
Ms. Jackson.
50, and if we go with Jerry Blavitt, damn near 60 years ago.
Right.
So we're talking about time, but that's what makes Philadelphia very special, but we have to push our comfort zone. And that's why I say it may be something very basic. Walk away from the cheesesteak. Look at sushi. Everybody run down to Chinatown. Everyone go somewhere else. Do something different. But look at a different way of envisioning this place that you live, love, and exist in. And look at what the future is going to be. Again, you can't grow old gracefully eating cheesesteaks every day of the week. And we have to get that cheesesteak not just out of our diet, but our mental diet as well.
So I just want to say in closing is that, there's a lot to learn from Philadelphia in general. Clearly, I think the biggest message is about apathy. We got to stop being apathetic. I think that we got to stop being so, lazy or just so pessimistic. There's problems, there's issues, But at the end of the day, we need to just be a little bit more energetic, a little bit more innovative. And, hopefully, this show, I think in all its innovation and trailblazingness, will help counter a lot of those notions and stigmas that we have today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your work. Thank you so much.